Hello fellow cyclists and welcome back to Bike Test Reviews. In this video, we'll address the topic,
what considerations and tips you have when buying a used bike.
Actually, buying a used bike is a very good option if you don't want to spend more money on a new bike. So in this video, we'll let you know all the ins and outs so you can make a very good educated purchase on your used bike. And before we start, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you want more cycling content like this one.
Here's what we'll cover for this video. First, we'll ensure that you're paying the fair price for your bike. We'll talk about examining the bike conditions, size, and ownership. We'll discuss the location and security of the bike. And finally, we'll share some general bike revision tips.
When you see a used bike that got your attention, you need to always ask yourself this question. Are you actually paying a fair price for it?
Go to forums, marketplaces, and ask local riders if the price is justified. If it's possible to take photos of any scratched or damaged areas of the used bike. You can bring those images to your local bike shop and they can assess them to indicate if it's worth fixing or if it's obsolete. Some of these issues can provide enough reasons to ask for a better price and allocate more money for any mechanical issues you'll cover after the purchase.
And in the end, just remember that there's always a room for negotiation, because that person will be willing to make a fair price adjustment to make the sale. So for example, at a discounted price, you can propose to the seller switching up the components. That way you can keep those high components with him and you come out with a better adjusted price, but with stock components that are just as good as those high-end that he has on the bike prior to the sale.
During the pandemic, everybody wanted to buy a bike. Now that the world moved past the pandemic, no one is riding because they're readjusting back to their normal lives. As a result, bikes that were bought in 2020 are now being sold through online marketplaces. Now is the perfect time to buy a used bike that's barely been ridden. Not only can you browse these marketplaces, but the brands are also overstocked and are in a massive clearance stage with bikes that go as recent as 2021. Bikes come with a serial number to validate the proof of ownership. Find this under the bottom bracket where the crank sits or under the top tube. When you first look at the bike, check if it's stolen. Websites like Bike Index can help you with this. Enter a serial number in the stolen bike search. Don't ever buy a stolen bike. It's going to get you in a lot of trouble. If you come across a stolen bike, walk away and report it to the police as soon as you can. Each bike brand abides by a specific bike size scheme. Get on the bike and stand by the top tube, in an upright position without sitting on the saddle. If the top tube barely touches your midsection, then you found an appropriate general size for you. Now that you have a basic measurement, you can get on the saddle in a static position and see how where your legs stand and how your arms reach the handlebars. These are very personal measurements that may require a bike fitting afterwards. As long as the bike side lets you maneuver the bike, you can rest assured that you feel comfortable and properly sized when you're on the bike. If the seller isn't confident about you riding the bike, offer them some ID to hold while testing it. Take it around the block, engage all the gears, and apply some heavy power to indicate if it's a well put together bike that won't bail on you. If there's any noise or odd play, ask why and propose to fix it yourself at a discounted price. One thing to look when buying a used bike is its visual conditions. If you look at the bike and it's very filthy and covered in scratches, then that's a red flag that needs to be justified. Use the checklist to make sure you're buying a legitimately used bike. Pull the chain on the front chain ring. If there's about 1 millimeter of movement, then it's good. Anything over 2 to 3 millimeters means it's beyond worn out. When it comes to the cassette and chain rings, you'll want to inspect them visually. You want to look at the teeth and ensure they're not overly sharp. If they are, they're past their shelf life. When it comes to the wheels and tires, spin the wheels to ensure they're true and check if the braking surface isn't too worn. Check the amount of tread on the tires for any splits or cracks that could be dangerous. Ask when was the last time the suspension was serviced. If it hasn't been yet, then use it to your advantage. Also, check for pitting on the fork shaft and ensure the rubber grommets haven't purged. When it comes to brakes, you should check if the pads have compound on them. The discs are straight and true, and if they work as it should. The negligence from a previous owner allowed the bike brand to void all warranties for pre-owned bikes. Address these issues before you buy a bike on the brink of falling apart. Your personal safety should always come first when making any impressive sales. That's why you want to ask first where you guys are going to meet to make sure and assess if it's worth the safety and trip you're willing to put. Always research well-known sellers that the locals may know of. Marketplaces like Facebook, PinkBike ensure that you're buying from trustable places that won't put your money or life at risk. Before you agree to meet, know exactly where you're headed, if it'll be during the daytime, and how public it'll be. You have to make sure that this is a neutral and close meeting point that provides security and visibility to examine the bike.
In the end, buying a used bike is just as good as buying a new bike. But with this tips, we hope you make a much more educated and thorough purchase, whether it be for a new or a used bike. And if you like this type of cycling content, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and don't forget to keep pedaling, and wish you a safe purchase for your used bike.